The nicest thing anyone had to say about World War I was probably when President Woodrow Wilson called it the war to end all wars. And that was completely wrong. World War I ravaged Europe and claimed an estimated 20 million lives. It was not the war that ended war. It did not, as Wilson also said, make the world safer for democracy. It was, as many have argued, completely pointless. That was why Ernest Hemingway said that it was the most colossal, murderous, mismanaged butchery that has ever taken place on Earth. So, how did Austria and Germany and France and Russia and Britain and the Ottoman Empire just agree to participate in such an epic catastrophe? Well, that's what we're here to find out on the podcast to end all podcasts.
We choose to go to the moon.
Right now, you like me.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
Welcome to 5 Minute Trivia, where we're making the world smarter 5 minutes at a time. I'm your host, R.M. Zubairi. Today's episode is the first of 3 parts. You can't talk about a massive geopolitical conflict that spanned the entire planet in just 5 minutes. You need like 15. And we are going to start right at the beginning with Napoleon. I know anytime we try to talk about anything, it seems like we bring up this guy. He was in our episode on War and Peace, and we even had to mention him in our show on Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. But that's what happens when you invade everyone around you, and Napoleon did that, starting in 1803. He and his forces were defeated for good at Waterloo in 1815, which is still only the second best Waterloo, after ABBA's version. After Napoleon was kicked out of Europe and left to die on a tiny rock in the South Atlantic, the powers of Europe were determined to make sure nothing like him ever happened again. So they created the Concert of Europe. No, not that kind of concert. Okay, that's nice, but not that kind either. There was actually no music at all. The Concert of Europe was created by the 5 big powers: Austria, France, Prussia, Russia, and the United Kingdom. The idea behind the concert was to prevent conflicts by creating a system of alliances that would have made it really costly for anyone to declare war on anyone else. If you try to fight one country, you're taking on that country and all their allies. It worked pretty well for a little while, but things eventually started to fall apart. In particular, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans were a sprawling empire that got started in the 1300s and spread to North Africa, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Asia Minor. But by the late 1800s, they were fading badly. One of the Ottoman territories was Bosnia and Herzegovina in the Balkan Peninsula that also held Serbia and Croatia. In the late 1800s, the Ottomans lost that territory after a local uprising. The Habsburg Empire of Austria-Hungary took it over and then officially annexed it in 1909. Now, the Bosnians may not have wanted the Ottomans, but everyone in the Balkans really hated the Austrians. Bosnian rebels tried to assassinate their Austrian governor. In Serbia next door, the king and queen were executed and their bodies thrown out of the palace window because they were friendly with the Austrians. So Bosnia doesn't seem like the kind of place an Austrian royal should plan a vacation. But if you are the sort of Austrian royal who does not have a clue in your head, that's exactly what you do. The clueless royal in question was Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary. In June of 1914, he visited Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. The official reason? was to inspect the army. But Franz Ferdinand had another motive. You see, he married a commoner against the wishes of his uncle, the Emperor Franz Joseph. The emperor only relented after Franz Ferdinand agreed to a morganatic marriage, meaning that their children would never ascend the throne and that his wife couldn't be seen with him in public. She wasn't even allowed into his theater box. But there was one loophole. She was allowed to accompany him when he was acting in a military capacity, which inspecting the army definitely was. His trip coincided with their wedding anniversary, and he wanted to ride in a car with his wife at his side. It was a beautifully romantic gesture that would cost both of them, and ultimately 20 million people, their lives. On June 28, 1914, a Serbian anarchist named Gavrilo Princip shot them dead as they rode through the streets of Sarajevo. Austria-Hungary was furious. The Emperor Franz Joseph delivered an impossible ultimatum to Serbia. When Serbia wouldn't agree, he declared war. Remember that complex system of alliances that was supposed to prevent war? Well, here, it did the opposite. Austria had the unconditional support of Germany, who agreed to back them in a war with Serbia. Serbia had an alliance with Russia, which had an alliance with France, which had an alliance with Britain. You can see where this is going, right? Within 6 days of Austria's war declaration, everyone was fighting everyone, and they all thought it was a good idea. Next week, we'll cover one of the most unique battles in all of military history as we take on part 2 of our series on World War I. Join us then, and thanks for listening.